is the keynote of our campaign, Time to Deal with Terrorism. We're going to start this rally with a minute's silence in memory of all the victims of terrorism, in particular the 2,500 people who have died at the hands of the IRA over the last 20 years. I ask Mr. Alan Boyce to play the last post, but after that there will be a minute's silence. I would ask all those of you who are holding flags to dip them with respect. Once a minute's silence is over, Mr. Boyce. Wingfield, editor of Flag newspaper and chairman of the National Front, to speak to you. Martin. Terrorism is an affliction on civilized society. It's a plague that leaves in its path pain, suffering and grief. It's a plague thrives on weakness and corruption. It's a plague that thrives on appeasement and double standards. Terrorism thrives in Europe because the terrorists know no European government has the courage to stand up to them. They can cause pain, suffering and grief, get away with their evil. What a record of achievement, double standards, weakness and capitulation in the face of terror has our own government over the last 40 years. Menachem Begin, former Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Shamir, the current Prime Minister of Israel, they butchered British soldiers in Palestine. Begin personally strung up two sergeants, Pace and Martin, in an eucalyptus grove in Palestine. Then he boobied, so when their colleagues came to cut them down, they too were blown to pieces. He was a wanted murderer. 30 years later, he's welcomed by a British Prime Minister as head of state. He's welcomed too by our royal family. These terrorist butchers who carried out bombing, maiming and murder of British soldiers and civilians get red carpet treatment from our government. Yet, German soldiers doing their duty in the last war, obeying orders, are still being hounded 50 years on. What double standard is that? What corruption is that? The murderer of WPC Yvonne Fletcher was allowed by our so-called Iron Lady to walk free from the Iranian embassy, to walk scot-free from Britain. Now we are giving money to these Iranians in the vague hope that they may release the hostages they've taken. Has there been such a capitulation by a British government? In our country, in our inner cities, there's a rise in a new sort of terrorism. A terrorism that sees burning, looting, mugging and rape. It's a terrorism that saw PC Keith Blakelock hacked to death by a mob. And what has our government done to combat this terrorism? It's made excuses for the terrorism. It's given money to the terrorists. It's thrown in jail loyal British subjects who dare to criticise these terrorists. That is appeasement. It's giving in to the mob. What an encouragement for terrorists to carry on their evil. The greatest terrorist threat faced by Britain is that of the IRA. Terrorists who have murdered and maimed British soldiers and civilians for the last 20 years. They've killed our soldiers. They've killed our civilians. They've killed our policemen. They've killed our women and killed our children. And what has our government done? They've held talks with the terrorists, as Willie Whitelaw did in 1972. They've drawn up agreements with governments who support the terrorists. Time and time again, British governments have betrayed the very people who face the brunt of terrorist attacks, the loyal people of Ulster. A National Front government would issue a formal declaration of war on the IRA. We would regard all members of the IRA as we regarded all members of the Argentine forces during the Falklands crisis as the enemy. We would instruct the police to investigate fundraising for the IRA, including pub collections in places like Birmingham, North London and Northern Ireland. And those people who engaged in raising money for the IRA would be jailed. We would seal the border between Ulster and Southern Ireland to prevent IRA terrorists entering our country. Support for the IRA would be made a criminal offence. Would apply to the newspapers, to television and to organisations like the South Movement who